Okay, welcome back to your second module in how to use Training Peaks. This specific module will begin to dive into how you conduct analysis within Training Peaks to determine if an athlete is actually following instructions or simply just doing work out there. If you recall from our first section, we're going to come over to the athlete library and we're going to find the athlete that we want to work on and launch them. In this case, we're going to work on Derek, and he's already loaded. So the first thing you will notice that you see when an athlete has completed work and uploaded their data is Training Peaks gives you a bunch of different colors to work with. This is kind of helpful, but it really does not tell the whole entire story. The green, yellow, and red indicate, much like a stoplight, how well they did in relation to the duration that you gave them. So specifically, I want to focus on that for a moment. Again, it only focuses on the duration of the event. It doesn't actually take into account the intensity. It does not take into account the actual workout. So if you gave an athlete 50 minutes where they were supposed to run at 10K pace, and they went out and they conducted a 50 minutes in zone 2, and then they uploaded their data, it will still show green. So green generally means they were, I believe, within about 10-15% of the duration. Yellow, I believe, is somewhere between maybe 50 and 75, and red usually means that they did not get anywhere close to the workout. But again, it's a little deceiving, so don't rely on that specifically as the only way that you perform analysis. Okay, so how to perform analysis. We're going to first click into a file, and if the athlete has uploaded properly, then you'll see a little file attached, and you'll have the opportunity to expand. The first thing I always do is I scroll down and I see if the athlete left me any feedback. So in this case, Derek left me 0 feedback, just lets me know that it was synced from Garmin Connect. The second thing I like to do is I like to get an idea of what the workout was. So in this case, Derek was on the bike. He was cycling 10 by 2 minutes at 110 to 115% with 2-minute recovery. And then he did 10 minutes at 80%. That's really the meat of the workout. That's what I care about. I'm not going to care if he rides at a lower pace here. The only time this really begins to matter is if they had problems here. We might look to see if they actually warmed up properly. So for instance, I've had athletes in the past conduct a test without warming up thoroughly, and it really showed in their test results. I made them redo the test the next week, perform the normal, and they were able to sustain their power. As I mentioned in the last module, you want to have your athlete ATP pulled up while you're doing this because it will have all their data. As a coach, you are more than welcome to go into this file when you're writing it and tell Derek exactly what 110 to 115% is. Otherwise, if you have your athlete ATP and your testing has been completed, then you'll have that pulled up. So what I'm looking for specifically with Derek is I'm looking for 300 to about 312 watts for his workload. So I'm going to click expand, and that's what his workout looks like. So in this case, I know that Derek did it on the trainer. I can tell that by how clean the data is. I can also tell because it does not provide me any elevation profile. If you look in the right-hand corner, here are your different legends. Yellow is his cadence or his RPMs. Feet is in gray, and as you see, you don't see any of that. And in this case, he trains with power, so watts is the pink number. As I mentioned a minute ago, we want to see 10 by 2 minutes. As you can tell, we can see exactly where his 2-minute intervals are. If an athlete is extremely diligent, then they will do a lot of this work for you by hitting the lap button on their workouts. So in this case, Derek came in and hit lap every single time the workout changed paces. So if I had to guess, and I'm pretty accurate right here, lap 1 would be the 10-minute warm-ups. I can see over here he did 5 minutes of accelerations, probably at about 20 seconds, and then recovery. And then I had him ride for 5 minutes at a certain percentage here. And then you begin to see 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. So again, the workout was 10 by 2 with 2 minutes rest. So the first thing I want to do is I want to see, hey, okay, Derek, did you stay within your zones? So if I come into the first interval, I can click lap, and two things will happen. One, it will highlight the actual interval, so I see where we are in the workout. And two, it'll change my data fields up here. So in this case, it tells me the interval was 2 minutes long, and it also tells me that his power was 304 watts. His cadence was about 100 RPMs. So again, what I'm looking for with Derek, 300 to 312 watts. I know he was resting next. I check the next one. Again, 307. And what you'll learn to do over time is I can see pretty accurately. Here's the 300 mark. He's in the ballpark for all of these. I might not feel the need to go in and check all of these if I feel the data is pretty accurate. I can see that this one's down just a little bit, so I might go down and try to find it. This might be about 15, lap number 15. So there it is. So this was dropped down to averaging to about 301, but I can see that he popped back on the next one really well, 309. You know, that might just be him making an adjustment, drinking water or something. So again, I don't see any reason for concern here. Derek's data looks really, really good. And in that case, he gets a passing grade, time to move on. So if we looked at a different file, easy run 30 minutes, I might not feel the need to actually go in and look at this. If I know Derek's paces, then just looking at the data at the high level tells me that he ran an 8:45 pace for 30 minutes and 7 seconds and made it 3.44 miles. I know Derek's in zone 2. Again, I can look at my trusty ATP. Should be around an 8:40 pace. So again, if it's just an easy run, check mark, you're good to go there. But here's a slightly more complicated workout. In this case, Derek had 7 minutes at a 7:50 pace and then 3 minutes at an 8:50 pace. And he needed to hold that for about 40 minutes. So it doesn't really do me a whole lot of good to just look at this high-end level because I really want to see, was he able to hold this or was he ahead of pace? So again, you're going to expand the data. You'll see something slightly different now. This is his pace. It does not look like it's registering his feet, but you also see a map down below. So I have the opportunity to see exactly where Derek ran. If I happen to know where they train, this will give me a lot of information. So in this case, I know that he's running on the Greenway through Metro Center. This is relatively flat. So in this case, once again, I come over here, click lap 2. That should be Derek's first interval. He held a pace of 7:26. Okay, we're good there. He recovered for 3 minutes. I wanted about 8:50. He recovered at 8:24. Little fast, not too much concern. Lap 4, Derek held a 7:20. Recovered 8:37. And then for his last one, or maybe it's not his last one, second to last one, he held a 7:19, so we're seeing him get a little bit faster. He's feeling probably pretty good today. Again, recovering at 8:18. Starting to get a little fast on the recovery. That does fall in his zone 2, so I'm probably not too concerned. But it is something to be a little considerate of to make sure your athlete is actually recovering. And then look at their his last one, 7 minutes at a 7:23 pace. So as we see, he did 4 different intervals. They all fell within the same room and the same zone that we wanted to see. So again, Derek gets a pass. If you wanted to look at a swim workout, unfortunately, they're not near as clean. This is what the swim data looks like. Again, if you know what the workout is, you can start picking apart some of the stuff. But it really then becomes contingent on the athlete actually hitting lap during rest intervals, and I find most of them don't. So in this case, his main setup here had 2x100, 2x150, 2x100, 2x50. It might be a little bit complicated to actually go in and try to figure out exactly what everything is. So if I try to even figure out what that one is, it's going to tell me he swam about 110 yards. That was probably 100 meters. It'll also tell me what his pace was here. So I didn't mention this before, but you can also come in and highlight anywhere in the workout, and it will show you what the selection is. And I'll do that with a bike in just a moment. So if I scroll back up and I find a good bike workout that Derek did outside, let's see. Here's a 3-hour tempo again. You know, he looks like he only rode for 2 hours and 27 minutes that day. He made it 47 miles. I have what his average power was. I have what his training stress is for that particular workout. He didn't give me any notes. I might, you know, ping him back and be like, hey man, why'd you cut 30 minutes off the workout? And, you know, he might have his reasons. Maybe it started raining, or maybe he felt tired. So again, expand, and let's see what this looks like. So this is a mess, but this is what a typical power file will look like. The first thing I do is I usually go see where they rode. So in this case, he rode in Chattanooga. He rode the 70.3 course. So I suspect that Derek didn't actually stick to the workout, that he went down there and simply rode. There may or may not be much I can do with this, other than just knowing what his average data was. So he held 186 watts and held 19.4 miles an hour. So what I might look at is I might come in here and just hide the rest of the data just to look at power. So you can come up here and hit hide, just so I can really look at the power. The things that stand out to me right now there's a lot of surging right here. So for instance, here's our legend on the left. 300 watts would be pretty powerful for Derek. If I look at his file, then 300 watts is about 110%, certainly well beyond where we need to ever be spending any time. Those may just be the hills, but I might be a little concerned right here what's going on. I also see that here's an area right here where he was riding what I would call really hot. This is much higher, as you can see, than the other areas. So I might just zoom in for a second and just look at that data. Zoom in and see how long he was there. Over here, it'll come up telling you he spent about 15 minutes riding at 222 watts. So I look at his file, okay, that's about 82%. Not a major concern of mine. And again, I'll double check the workout. Maybe that's what I actually had him doing, which it does not look like until later in the workout that he should have been riding that high. But again, in this case, I remember speaking specifically to Derek about it and told him just to go down there and ride. The other thing I might do is just notice a couple areas where it's really high. I might even go down and look at the map down below and see where I am. So if I know this course pretty well, I can tell that Derek's coming up through a hillier section of the course, and that might also indicate why his power is up a little bit higher. So what you want to do is each week go through and at least provide some level of analysis to each of the files. Again, for an easy run, I might only provide this level of analysis, and I see that what he did. The more and more you know the athlete, the more and more you'll become familiar with them. In this case, I know Derek does not like to do core work. Therefore, you will see red in all of his files. Again, go in, check. Did he do the workout? Here's a little bit better workout to look at. You see a bunch of different stuff going on. I can see that he went down and rode at the airplane field for 34 miles. And again, I can come in and check what the workout was. Was that I was looking for about 35 minutes for him to ride at 90%. So in this case, I'm looking for about 245 watts out of Derek. It probably started somewhere about right here and went to this big dip right here. And if I grab that, that's 35 minutes, 235 watts. Again, pretty close. to what I want. Probably definitely within my range of error. So Derek gets a pass on this. In the event that you see an athlete really falling apart, you'll want to follow up with that athlete and say, hey, you know, Derek, I saw that you were only able to do 5 out of the 6 intervals. What happened on that 6th one? You also want to keep track if they're falling off their intervals too much. So, for instance, if he was supposed to hold 245 and he's holding 220 regularly, then it might send an indication to me that he is possibly fatigued. He could be tired. There could be something going on that day, or maybe his zones are off a little bit. So again, this is just a very introductory course on how to provide or how to perform a little bit of analysis within Training Peaks. The next module will specifically talk about the dashboard and the different charts that I think are particularly helpful more than others. As always, if you have any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, we will keep going on with the modules.